Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are at our second to last team in the LEC to cover in this series, and that is SK Gaming. Now, this squad has also made quite a few changes into their lineup in comparison to some of the other teams, with a completely different 4 players in comparison to... So, it's finally time to go in depth on an SK member, starting in the top lane with Genax. Now, this guy's actually really amazing because 2 splits ago, i.e. the spring of 2020, he was a mid laner, playing LeBlancs, Ornns and Aatroxes to a very strong success. This year, he's coming back as a top laner like he was for the entirety of summer, and considering the fact that this will be his second split in the top lane, he has come leaps and bounds as a player, considering the fact that it's a completely different ballpark in the top lane. Now, going over sorts of his stats right now, we're going to go into the mechanics. Obviously, he is very, very mechanically gifted. 3.7 is the score we're going to go for. I was tempted to go slightly higher, maybe a 3.9, because of the fact he has prior mid lane experience, but I've stuck him in at the 3.7. He's got a lot of skill on bulkier, tankier bruisers, more than actual carries in the top lane. Like, he's played a couple of Kennen games, Renekton once, and it was a loss. And even then, the rest of his picks are mostly bruisers. Now, as we look towards the communication stat, this is where I feel he shines. 4 is the scoreline we're going for here. As a rock player, I feel he is like the cement of the SK Gaming lineup, and as such, giving him a nice solid 4 kind of indicates to me that he is the guy that will be leading the lineup, as he's got a bunch of rookies kind of playing behind him. Lastly, this is quite interesting. He's the only returning SK Gaming player from last year, and he is getting a 3.5. Obviously, SK made it to the playoffs, but was immediately eliminated by Schalke, and that was a 3-0 sweep as well. But luckily, they still managed to get the 3.5 score from me, the only player to do so in 2020 Achievements tab. Jumping into the jungle now, we have Treatz, who is a former LDLC player now joining SK for this 2021 season, and for me, I feel this is a huge pickup. This guy is a European Masters winner, picking up that accolade during the 2020 Spring Split European Masters tournament, and he has performed quite well, I would say, up until the basically European Masters of summer. After that, his records looked pretty red in my opinion, with him losing quite a lot of his games. That being said, he has kind of opted to go a bit more scaling with his picks. His Graves and his Evelyn are 2 picks that he's gone towards in the jungle to kind of either carry or pop a lot of damage into the enemy team. That being said, he also has favoured a Skarner, a pick that's not seen too much play but could see a bit in 2021 with the bruiser changes and the fact that Skarner is possibly at one of its strongest points because of the recent buffs he got at the end of Season 10. Now, looking at Treatz's stats here, mechanically 3.9, and honestly, it could have been a lot higher, with his ability to carry during the spring split of 2020. But looking at summer, and this is the split that matters, his carrying potential went down quite considerably, as the series against Gamers Legion, they lost that best of 3 2-0, and he was playing Skarner, which is one of his picks he opts to go towards, and then a Nidalee. His Nidalee didn't do too much, 0, 3 and 1. That was his KDA for it. And even then, it was a very quick win for Gamers Legion. Now, you look at wind speeds that the opposition get, you usually have to wonder, okay, why did it go that quick? Well, the one major thing that you notice is a lot of the games that he's losing are exceptionally fast. And mechanically, yes, you can say you're a good carry, but when you've got options that are more bruiser heavy, the likes of the Skarners, the Sedges, them sort of junglers, even a Hecarim is a bit more bulkier, you can actually prolong the game to allow your team to scale up and catch up. That's where you have to wonder, does carry jungles mean that much? Or is it better to get some better frontline that can just apply the damage to allow your team to do work? Either way, that is a different argument to what we're looking at today. 3.9 for mechanics. He's mechanically strong. If we look at the spring, summer as well in the play-ins, he was good in them. Basically playing a lot of Hecarim. Anyway, moving over to his communication after rambling for quite some time on his mechanics. 3. I can't theoretically give higher, because obviously EUM squad going into an LEC squad is... it's hard to say they'll do well. Coming from the French league, you've got what? Possibly some connections with other players on his team, but that's about it. Now, lastly, his 2020 accomplishments. I was very kind, 3.3. If it weren't for the fact that he won the Spring Splits European Masters, it probably would have been just a base 3. But I am a very nice person at this stage, and that's why he's getting the 3.3 treatment. Black, brown, yellow, red, purple, orange, indigo, violet. No, it's blue, ladies and gentlemen. He is the new mid laner for SK Gaming, coming in from Fenerbahce. And yes, I did just make that bid. And this is a player here who's had highs and lows in 2020. In the winter split, his team won it. In the summer split, his team came 7th. And this is a hard thing to actually grade as a player, because you've had one high split and then one low split. This is basically just Origin in a nutshell from 2020. And as such, when we're looking at his stats right now, I can't realistically go above a 4. But he's getting a 3.5 for mechanics. He's a player that's actually played quite a few different picks. He's got the standard control mages, the Azirs, the Syndras, the Oris, but he also has more assassin mid lane picks that we don't tend to see. LeBlancs, Akali, and Echo being pulled out from time to time is a very strong array of picks, so he isn't just getting a broke 3 for having a small pool and then not mechanically performing in summer, because looking at his KDAs, I can sure as hell tell you that his LeBlanc in his last game that he got to play of her went 10, 3 and 9. So quite clearly he has got mechanical skills on picks that are very assassin heavy and can absolutely decimate opponents. And I'll be honest, his positioning is quite good because he has very low kill to death ratios, in terms of the fact that he has very few deaths in the games that he plays. Now, granted, it doesn't always stack up to kills, but it does mean that he is at least playing effectively as a player in not being the weakest part of the team that gets killed off. Now, moving over to his comunicaciones skill, yeah, it's the same as Tink's, a 3. I can't theoretically give someone who's coming in from, I do believe, the Turkey League, I think? No. It's a Turkey League. I'm right. He's coming in from the Turkey League to compete here in the LEC. It's a completely different language in comparison to what the rest of the squad will be, so communication might not meld the same as what, say, 2 Spanish players coming in from, say, the same squad, I don't know, like Promiscu and his support coming in from Mouse, basically the exact same pair that's played together for quite some time, will obviously get a higher communication score than, say, a player and another player coming in from ERL leagues or classes ERL leagues, and then coming in and then being absolutely trounced because they don't speak the same language, and obviously there'll be a language barrier. Finally, here's the stat that everyone knows and loves, is the 2020 accomplishments. I don't know how to grade this. I gave him a 3. That was very generous, considering a 7th place finish is not playoffs. And the reason it's that high is because he actually did well in the winter split. I'm classing that as an accomplishment, and as such, it's getting added to his score. The one probably time that I'm ever going to add a split that's not included. But hey ho, who cares? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to head down into the bot lane, where we are greeted by a new ADC in Jesu. And what do you know, this guy is actually very, very talented. It's one of them players that I've been expecting to make some sort of debut in the LEC for a while now, and honestly, as we look at his stats, they're not going to be that high, but reflectively, they should be slightly higher, and as a player, I feel he could honestly make a massive splash in the LEC. Now, starting with mechanics, I've gone with a 3.7. Theoretically, I could have put this slightly higher, maybe a 4.1. At most, that would probably be the score I'd give him, but he is a very talented player. He's got very strong, big wins in the LFL finals on his Misfits Premier, winning the Grand Finals with his Caitlyn and Ezreal combination to win in a 3-0 clean sweep. Now, looking at this team he's going into, I feel he could possibly carry them through to a very strong finish. The likes of his Ashe being one of his more prolific carries, he could in theory just decimate all of the opponents in the league. Moving over to his communication though, yet again, new rookie, coming to the LEC, I'm giving him a 3. Honestly, it could be slightly higher, maybe a 3.2, but I've got to be very respectful and say he is coming to a new team, new roster, new lineup. It's something he's not used to, and I honestly feel he could possibly struggle in communicating with the team, whereas his mechanical skill may just elevate him past some communication issues. And lastly, the throwaway stat, as everyone calls it, the 3.7 for a European, regional league winner. It's a standard score that we have to give them. And our final player, some could say, is a bit of a treat. It is the former TSM sub-support / support that played for a few games in the LEC last year in Treatz. I did say his name and I made it a pun, just deal with it. Anyway, he's a phenomenal support player. He's known for his Braum and as well as his other strong engaged champions like the Leona. And we saw quite a lot of that in the TSM playoff run. I remember against the Golden Guardians, he used this effectively to just decimate them, and as such, when we look at his stats, you're going to notice a trend here, a 4 for mechanics. Why? Well, firstly, he's a very strong frontliner. His Rakan is known for being very good at just locking everyone up, and back when he was on the TSM Academy lineup, lost just just everyone dead. That's how this TSM Academy roster played, and I feel he's going to translate that success over here to the LEC as one of these very hot commodities in this league. Over to his communication stat, I've put him at a 4 yet again. You're probably wondering why. Well, honestly, I feel he's probably going to be having to step up with Genax to get these kind of rookies through the first split. Treatz is a very experienced player in terms of very high stress situations. Yes, you could say the Academy Worlds Grand Finals isn't the same level as the European Masters, but it is still technically the second tier league in the NA region, which is basically the same as EU Masters, and Treatz has won that. He's competed in that final multiple times as well. What's more, he's also had a playoff run with TSM, and as such, he's going to be using that experience and his voice, which is something he's known for having a big one, because he was technically the Academy captain for TSM. Now, lastly, 2020 achievement is a score we don't tend to see too often, being exceptionally high for a player who, in theory, didn't do too much, but Treatz is getting the 5. He was a key commodity in the TSM playoff run and the last remaining games in the TSM regular split, and as such, if you want there, TSM could have possibly slipped out of a favourable position for them in the playoffs, and could have essentially got knocked out round 1. Anyway, enough rambling on about TSM and me having a boner for them. Yeah, let's just jump over to the final placing of SK Gaming. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we load our LEC table, there realistically isn't too many places for SK to go. In fact, there is only 2 places they can go, 9th or 10th. This squad's either going to finish dead last or it's going to finish in 9th. And for me, I feel this squad's going to finish in dead last. It's one of the only squads I don't have too much hope for in the LEC, as I just feel it's a bunch of players just being dragged in and put in a place. There's no, synergy, in my opinion. The squads like Astralis, who have basically rebranded their team, only keeping Nuke Duck, there's at least some semblance of a squad. They've got a bottling duo that's played together for a long time. They've got players who link well together, and then they've got Nuke Duck, who's considered to be one of the best mid laners in the league, who can lead. And as such, it's a bit of a change as to seeing only one returning player on the SK lineup be Genax, and not, say, Crownshot, who was considered their best player by far. And Crownshot is technically still a free agent. He was never signed to any LEC squad, and it's a myth to me why that's happened. He was one of the core reasons SK made it to playoffs last split, and that to me just baffles me completely. Nevertheless, we have one last team to cover in this series, and that is Vitality, and already we can technically just slide them in right now onto our leaderboard, but we'll save that for next time, where we can actually evaluate every single player and go from there. Once again, I have been izlo33. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like down below. subscribe if you're new if you want to, and I will see you guys next time for that B episode. See you guys then.